They were traveling. And they said, you know, where you're going in this part of Portugal, you need to take care of your stuff because there's robbers and they'll rob you and all that kind of stuff. So she took her passports and her plane tickets and all of those things like that. She kept her money on her, but she put all that in a bag and put it in the back of her car and in the trunk and locked it. Well, needless to say, they came back and somebody had broken into the trunk of their car and all that. Well, she panicked. You're in Portugal. You don't have a passport. You lost your plane ticket. That was back in the day that they didn't just issue you new ones or you get an electronic one or whatever. So she was just freaking out. She went back to the hotel, told the maitre d' there, hey, or the concierge there, said, hey, what's the deal? What am I going to do? And they said, well, I don't know what you're going to do. There's no American embassy here where you're at. Go to the airport tomorrow and just go and tell them what happened, and maybe they can help you. So she did that. The next day, she went to the airport, getting ready to fly out, and she said, look, I'm in a pickle. I don't have my passport. I don't have my tickets. I was robbed and don't have those things, and I don't know what to do. And she said, hold on a minute. And she got on the radio and called somebody and told her, said, hey, somebody turned your ticket in. She said, what? That's crazy. This burly guy came up and said, look, does this look like your bag? Yes, that's my bag. And opened it up. The passports were there, the tickets were, everything was there except for a couple of valuables that she'd put in there, and they were stolen. That's okay. The story was there was a woman who was out in the woods collecting mushrooms. I'm assuming for cooking, but anyway, she was collecting mushrooms, and she found this bag out there. Things were strewn out, and she stuffed it all back in, and she looked at the ticket and said, oh my gosh, this is somebody's stuff. And then she looked and said, oh my gosh, they're flying out tomorrow. This was 40 or 50 miles away from the airport. This lady who was wandering in the woods gathered that stuff up, and she drove to the airport and turned it into the airline and went home. This lady was that had lost her stuff and found, and she was just freaking out. She just could not believe that someone would do that. And of course, flew home, and they connected later, and that was the rest of the story. But can you imagine doing that? How many of us would drive 40 miles to do a favor for a perfect stranger? Someone we hadn't met, someone we probably never would have met. How many of us would do that? How many of us would express that kind of kindness? You know, we live in a hostile world. I don't have to tell you that. You just look at the news every evening and you can see all the hostile circumstances. We had the January 6th thing. We've had Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook. That was a nice town, and now it's known for the slaughter of 28 babies. Uvalde, right here in our backyard. 19 students, 3rd and 4th graders, shot to death in their own classrooms. Where did kindness go? Where did consideration go? I don't want to tell you, you think it doesn't impact you, but it does. I was in Kroger with Gail yesterday, and we were getting our stuff. Maybe it was Friday. I don't know. When you're retired, you lose track of days. But anyway, we were in Kroger, and we were walking down the aisle. I thought, oh, what happens if there's an active shooter? I mean, I've got a concealed carry. In fact, now you don't need those. Anybody can carry a gun around. Kindergartners are carrying guns. Anyway, and I thought, what would I do? What would I do? Well, I'd take Gail and I'd shove her into the toilet tissue and cover her up, and I don't know what I'd do. But that, you think about those things. I never thought about that before. We live in a hostile world. Where did kindness go? And I'm going to tell you something. Kindness is tough. Because I'm going to tell you a secret. People are annoying, aren't they? Have you noticed that? People can be annoying. I have a T-shirt that one of my sons bought me, and it says, I used to be a people person, but people messed it up. You know? We live in a world where people are annoying. People are disruptive. People are self-serving. But that's our nature as human beings. It's to be that way. Ultimately, we as believers are in the people business. Why? Because Jesus was in the people business. So that means that kindness must be important to us. We must be kind people. To deal with people, we have to have some measure of kindness. In our scripture today, Jesus encounters a blind man. And let me tell you something. Jesus had plenty to do. He was very busy. Other folks to tend to, other matters on his mind. And ultimately, this blind beggar drew Jesus' attention. And out of this incident, we see the importance of kindness. Christian kindness. Read with me, Mark 10, 45 through 52. Now, I included 45 because it's important. There's something Jesus says there that is important and applies to this idea of kindness. He says, therefore, even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. It's critical to understand that as we grapple for kindness, that we're called to serve. Verse 46, they came to Jericho, and as he was leaving Jericho with his disciples, you wonder if they came to Jericho, then immediately leave. I don't know why they, anyway, what did they do there? Got a Slurpee. Anyway, moved on. He was leaving Jericho with his disciples and a large crowd. Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the road. And when he heard it was Jesus the Nazarene, he began to cry out, Son of David, Jesus, have mercy on me. Many people told him to keep quiet, but he was crying out all the more, have mercy on me, Son of David. 49, Jesus stopped and said, call him. So they called the blind man and said to him, have courage, get up, he's calling for you. And he threw off his coat and he jumped up and he came to Jesus. Then Jesus answered him, what do you want me to do for you? Rabbi, the blind man told him, I want to see. Go your way, your faith has healed you. And immediately he could see and began to follow Jesus or him on the road. Kindness. What do we know about kindness? Why is it important? This little encounter tells us several things that are very important, and I want to share those with you today. For a believer, kindness is required. It's a requirement. Tanner, you and Saul are getting ready to go to school, and I'm sure you got your list of things you're going to have, and for these classes, you're going to have these requirements. It's not you might buy this book if you like the cover. You're required to do it. Well, folks, as Christians and as believers, there are requirements on us. There are things that we have to do. They're not optional. It's a requirement. We all have busy lives. We all have lots to do and lots to deal with. But for the believer, kindness is a requirement. I told you earlier that Jesus was busy. The disciples were always trying to keep people away from him because he was so busy. And he was busy. I want to tell you what he was doing. He was leaving Jericho to go to Jerusalem. You know what was going to happen in Jerusalem? He was going to be crucified. It was a critical moment. It was one of the last few moments or days that he would have on this earth. So it was a critical time for him. He had an appointment there at Calvary. And blind Bartimaeus disrupted his day. And people were telling him, he's busy. Be quiet. He don't have time for you. You're a blind beggar. You have no value. Leave him alone. But you know what happened? I love these two words. Jesus stopped. He stopped. How often do we stop to render kindness? How often do we do that? I took Dad to MD Anderson 3 days this week. I had lots of time to visit. And Dad is an observer of things, and he was coming back from College Station, and he came to Shiro, and there was a dog that somebody had dumped out. The dog was running up and down the road looking for her, and he felt so bad for that dog. So he stopped to try to catch that dog. Dog was over here somewhere. There was a guy in a BMW that pulled in front of him, put on his flashers, and out got the biggest African-American guy you'd ever seen. He had those flashers on that BMW. He ran up to Dad, and Dad's like, what's going on? And he said, are you okay? Are you all right? I saw you pulled over, and your flashers were on. And he says, well, yeah, I'm okay. I was just trying to catch that dog. Somebody threw that dog out. And he said, oh, you were trying to do good. And Dad said, well, I guess so. And the guy got back in his BMW and drove off. Simple act of kindness. He didn't have to stop. He didn't have to stop. And if he knew the peril of stopping to talk to my dad, he probably would have kept going. It's fortunate that he got back in his car and was able to leave within an hour. But he did. Kindness. The man stopped. We as believers need to stop. You know, sometimes we feel like we're owned by our busyness. We're owned by all the things to do. We're owned by our lists. Gail and I got got on Cozy. If you don't have Cozy, it's an app. And you can share lists so you can keep up with to-dos. And first thing she said is, I'm going to fill that up, is what she said. I was looking for groceries. But anyway, shared grocery lists. But, we have all these lists. We have to get this done. We have this done. Or somehow we fail. We need to stop. We need to stop. And we don't need to stop just physically. We need to stop in our mind. We need to stop in our thinking. We need to stop and be kind. Look for opportunities to be kind. You know what happens? As we extend kindness to other people, it makes us less self-serving. That means we need to stop and be compassionate. We need to stop just seeing the world from our perspective. Here's how the world is because that's how I see it. Stop. There are other people who see the world differently than you. Doesn't mean they're wrong or you're wrong or anything's wrong. But you know what? Stop and be kind. Stop only seeing the world from your perspective. How about this? Stop embracing sin. Because here's the thing. As we're forgiven of our sin, gratitude comes over us, and there's a desire to bless God and to be kind to other people through obedience. Jesus stopped. We as his followers need to stop. We need to stop. I want you to think for a minute, just in your head. You don't need to tell me. When was the last time you just stopped? We go from one emergency to another, one fire to another, one to-do to another. Stop. Stop. The reason we never hear the voice of the Lord is we don't stop. He's saying, hey, come back. Stop. Another thing we need to know about kindness is transformational. Do you know that? Kindness is transformational. What does that mean? It means it changes things. Do you know that kindness changes you chemically? If you experience kindness or are kind to someone else, this was a study done by UC Berkeley and Stanford together. They measured the chemistry of people. And I don't know how they do that. But when they encountered kindness or were kind, the cortisol in their blood system, in their brain, and all that went down. You know what cortisol? That's an anxiety hormone. It's the one that says, your world's on fire. You're going to die. It's terrible. Your kids hate you. It's terrible. That's what cortisol does to you. And as you're kind and you express kindness to others, that cortisol goes down. So you express some level of kindness. It's transformational. Blind Bartimaeus' situation, it was transformational, wasn't it? What happened? It says in 52b, immediately he could see. Jesus' kindness solved his problem. It transformed his life. It transformed his life. There was a physical transformation. But you know what? When God expresses kindness to us, it says in the book of Romans that it leads us to repentance. When we think about the kindness of God and the great lengths he went to rescue us, to restore us, and to reestablish a relationship with us, we think about the kindness and the price that he paid. We think about that. It should lead us to a place where we say, God, I'm sorry. I never realized. I'm sorry for what I've done and what I've been. I want to be different because you loved me and you showed me kindness. I want that kindness, that love that you've given me to change my life, change my perspective. Kindness is transformational. I'm going to tell Dad stories because I spent the week with him. I've got lots of them. But anyway, we were at MD Anderson, and Dad talks to everyone. He's 78, and he just talks to everyone. Everyone he sees. There were several times we got on, we were there getting ready to go into surgery, and ladies came to get him, and he said, oh, look at all these beautiful ladies coming to take care of me. And I'm like, knock him out now. But he talks to people. We got on the elevator. He'd been talking to people all day. Got on the elevator. There was this lady standing there, and she had sparkly shoes. And he said, may we ride with you? She was on the phone. Yes. Oh, you have sparkly shoes. I said, Dad, she's on the phone. But as he talked to people, they smiled. As he talked to people, they engaged with him. He had like 5 appointments the day before the surgery. And out of everyone, he came out of the back and he told the people this, now y'all better behave now. And they all smiled and laughed. It's transformational. When we're kind, it changes things. It changes circumstances. You don't know what anyone's going through. You don't know what they're dealing with. But when God taps you on the shoulder, and you know what I'm talking about, when he says, hey, look at that, and you are drawn to do something, and you say, no, I can't do that. I'm too busy. That's God's tapping you on the shoulder. It changes someone. It changes identity. Who was this guy that he healed? We know him as blind Bartimaeus. He was always blind Bartimaeus. Everyone called him blind Bartimaeus. But what happened? Jesus stopped. He took a moment. He healed him. And guess what? He was no longer blind Bartimaeus. He was just Bartimaeus. That restoration changed his identity. He could get up. He could have a life. You know, women didn't marry blind guys or people who were crippled or that kind of stuff because they couldn't earn a living. His life changed. Everything changed for him. And what did he say? It said he got in and he followed Jesus. I'm going with you. Wherever you're going, I'm going with you. It changed him. No longer blind Bartimaeus. Kindness changes relationships. I'm going to tell you something that doesn't change relationships. When we say, I'm mad at you, I'm not going to talk to you. That don't change nothing, does it? Seems kind of silly, doesn't it? But we do that, don't we? I'm not talking to them. Kindness heals relationships. Kindness softens hard hearts. And sometimes that heart that we soften when we express kindness to someone else is our own. It's our own. Kindness is transformational. And here's something that ought to really make you think. Kindness is proof. Kindness is proof. What does that mean? As we look at Galatians, and we will in just a minute, kindness is listed as one of the spiritual gifts. One of the fruits of the Spirit is kindness. Peace, patience, kindness. It's a requirement. It's proof. Paul wrote to the church at Colossae. He said, therefore, God's chosen ones, holy and loved, put on heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. All of those things are critical to human relationships and to reflecting the heart of God to other people. Kindness is proof that we're God followers. It's proof. It allows people to look at us and say there's something different about them. They're kind. We are kind because we're God's people. It's proof. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. And you know what else happens? We become more spiritually aware when we begin to practice kindness. Why? Because when we're kind to someone and we see the benefit, what happens? We look for more opportunities. When I was a kid, my aunt kept a bowl of Hershey's Kisses on the coffee table at her house. And I was 8 or 10 years old, and I would come, and I'd eat one. Then I'd eat another. And before you know it, there was a pile of foil by that bowl. No Hershey's Kisses left. Why? Because they were really good to me, and I enjoyed those. Kindness will do the same for your spirit. Once you're kind to people, you'll want to repeat it. It makes you spiritually aware, and you're looking for opportunities to be kind. You look for opportunities to express graciousness and compassion and love to other people. I dare you. I double dog dare you. Look for opportunities this week to be kind to people. Perfect strangers. People you've never met. Accept whatever challenge God puts in front. Sometimes he says, hey, go up there and give those people $20. Ooh. We Baptists like our money, don't we? Ooh. But sometimes God said, give them that. Go do it. Do it and see what God does. Do it. Makes us spiritually aware. God was led by the Spirit. Jesus was. He was led by the Spirit. Remember, he went to the wilderness and he was spiritually aware. He heard blind Bartimaeus. Why? Because he had that kindness in him. You know, there are a lot of people crying out for help and kindness. Do we hear them? Do we hear them? Jesus heard Bartimaeus. You remember the woman who had the hemorrhage and had gone to doctors and had been mistreated, and basically they took all her money and didn't fix her at all, and she was in this crowd and Jesus was there, and she didn't want to raise attention to her problem, but she said, you know what, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, maybe something will happen. And she made her way through the crowd, and she reached out and touched Jesus. Jesus didn't notice. He just went on about it. No, he did notice. He felt that woman. He felt her need. He felt the blessing that came. He felt the healing came out because he was spiritually aware. That spiritual a gift there of kindness was there. And he felt the touch of that woman. And he felt her healed. When was the last time you felt someone's need? Felt someone's hurt? And blessed them and felt that blessing because they were different after you left them. Jesus saw. Part of the proof that we belong to him is we see. We see things the way he does. We see people the way he does. There was a time where Jesus was in Galilee. And they came and told him that John the Baptist had been beheaded. John the Baptist wasn't just the forerunner, the person who came out in front of him and said, hey, he's coming behind me. You better be ready. I'm not fit to tie his sandals, but he's coming. He was also his cousin. So they came and told Jesus, hey, John the Baptist is dead. And it says that Jesus stepped aside to grieve. Jesus was fully human. He felt hurt. He felt loss. And he also knew that John the Baptist was his forerunner in life and also would be his forerunner in death. So he knew what was coming his way. So he stepped aside to gather himself and to grieve. But it says this, he said he looked at the multitudes. He looked out and saw them as sheep without a shepherd. And he felt compassion. I'm going to tell you what, that spiritual awareness, that kindness within us allows us to see others, to see their need, to see the opportunity to be kind and to be gracious. And I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to confess to you, I've failed many times. There's times that I know that God has said, hey, do this. And I sat there on my hands, tried not to move because, I don't know these people. I don't know what they need. I can't help them. I'll tell you something. Jesus saw that kindness within us, sees beyond our own grief. See, sometimes we get so caught up in our own grief, we lose the ability to be kind. We get so caught up in our troubles, our worries, our anxieties. What do we say about anxiety? Kindness reduces the cortisol. Your anxiety comes down. Sometimes we beat it down, we push it down, and we learn to ignore it. Kindness. Kindness is a requirement for you, believer. Kindness is transformational. It changes you, and it changes those that you express kindness to. It's also proof that the Holy Spirit dwells in you. If you have no capacity for kindness, you need to do a spiritual check. You need to say, God, what's wrong with me? I don't feel kind about anything or anyone. I don't see any of this. I'm not aware of this. I don't feel their hurt. I'm dismissive. I need some help. Close with this. Kindness. How many of you heard about the Saharan dust? You heard about this? This happens apparently a couple of times a year. I'm 60 years old and I didn't realize it happened all the time. I was driving to church this morning and I looked up and some of the clouds were brown. And I'd seen on the news last night that the Saharan dust was going to come over central Texas. You know what that is? It's literally dust from the Sahara Desert. It gets caught up in the winds and it goes up high and it crosses the ocean It ends up in Texas. That's so weird. And it stays up there and covers everything. Let me tell you something. Kindness is like the Saharan dust. It goes a long way. Kindness is like the Saharan dust. It stays up there. Kindness is like the Saharan dust. It spreads and impacts lots of folks. We are to be God's ambassadors of kindness. And I'm going to tell you something. You need to know this. As you're kind in this day and age, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. But that's okay. We should, for the right reasons, right?